is 18 minutes away from 9.
Basically, this generation is more liberal, more tolerant, more Democrat-leaning than the one before. It's not just because they're young.
For another point of view, it's Hard News with Russell Brown and Wammo on Kiwi.
Yes, from publicaddress.net, the Media 7 show on TVNZ7 as well. Mr. Hard News himself. G'day there, Russell.
G'day.
There's a few things to talk about this morning. First of all, the police have come back with their verdict on what happened with the Don Brash emails that were leaked.
Yeah, this is the review of the police investigation. So it's been a very, very long tale, but it does look now that it's finished. Don Brash has accepted the review and thanked the police, and I think we can now all go on our way. Probably the key thing to take away from this is that there was no hacker. This idea of some genius super hacker who penetrated the secure systems at Parliament on multiple occasions, but has never been found, nothing's ever been logged, it was always pretty stupid. And I suppose that's the only disappointing thing out of this is John Key is still floating that idea.
Right.
And in his press conference, he kind of cast aspersions on contractors doing IT contracting work for Parliament. I suppose because he could safely do that because it was vague enough. He didn't have to actually accuse any civil servants of corruption. But really, he didn't look convinced. I don't know whether you saw. Did you see that part of the press conference?
No, I didn't know.
He looked profoundly unconvinced by what he was saying, and then he pretty much did a runner afterwards.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to insinuate that the Prime Minister had anything to do with this because that would be wrong. But who benefited most?
Well, yes. I'm not going to insinuate that either.
No,
but certainly other people are.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any proof for that. Either. But
it'll be some other disgruntled National Party member.
We've heard the rumours. I don't know who it was, but it does seem that Don Brash was in the habit of printing out his emails, which does make them rather easier to uplift and walk away with.
Yeah.
So it could have been a number of people, but the thing that can be ruled out, I think, is this idea that there was a hacker, which would be a threat to national security, which is why the police were concerned. And it does seem that as soon as they satisfied themselves that scenario had not happened, they kind of sat back and thought, well, it's not really up to us. This is a leak. This is a political leak. We'll wait for it to come out in the media, which it never did. Interestingly enough. But Nicky Hager this week has said a little more, I think, than he has previously, and talked in terms of people who work at Parliament.
Because he knows, right? He actually knows, doesn't he?
Yeah,
He's got to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
He knows. And one thing he did say, though, that he said he was approached by police over whether it was a couple of named junior staffers in Don Brash's office, and he said no, it was not those junior staffers. And he said normally he wouldn't comment either way, but he didn't want the blame to fall on people who had nothing to do with it. So it does seem like it was someone reasonably senior who had their own reasons. I do kind of agree with one thing I agree with David Farrer about is that it might be nice if some way down the line, perhaps when that person dies, then that they could be named, because I think history deserves that. It was a pretty interesting episode.
It does. It'll come out in another documentary in the future. And we look forward to that.
Or a play.
Kind of like, well, that with that Russian spy one that went on. Remember? Yeah. That was fascinating. Gosh, that was interesting times.
Yes, but no, I actually do tend to agree with the idea that at some point it would be useful for historians to know.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Supercity, democracy under attack apparently in Auckland City.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the Herald swing in behind this one and using reasonably strong language as well.
Yeah.
I think there are concerns with these council-controlled organisations, most especially between now and when, particularly the water one, doesn't actually come under council control for another 2 years. In the meantime, this is the new Auckland Supercity Council.
Yeah.
In the meantime, they can pretty much tell existing local authorities and then the council, once it's constituted, what to do. They can actually suggest bylaws that the council pretty much has to implement. So it's and this is another 2 years of this. And I thought John Campbell did a really good job. I don't think it actually wound up on TV. They went to the Oscars or something.
Yeah, well, I had a wee rant about that on the show yesterday because I was quite pissed off because I was watching 3 News and he promoted it throughout that hour. And next thing I know, they're crossing to the Oscars talking about a Phoenix game. A giraffe is born at the zoo and someone wants to bring a ban to New Zealand. Nothing about democracy apparently under attack.
Yeah, and the bizarre thing was, it was actually a very good interview.
Where is it?
He really put Rodney Hyde on the spot. It's on the TV3 website, 3 News website. I was having trouble finding the Campbell Live part.
Oh, you see, I'm shaking my head. This is all wrong. This is not what should be happening with journalism on television.
No, exactly.
And I know this is not personally to John Campbell, but it's all the people behind the scenes are making these decisions, and it's outrageous.
Yes, it is, because the 3 stories you've listed were all less important.
Frickin' giraffe at the zoo, Russell.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, and like I say, it's actually worth going to the website for and finding.
I will.
Because it's bloody good. And he does put Rodney Hyde on the spot. And
great.
As John pointed out, the issue is a real concentration of power and budget into, the transport CCO. Meetings won't be public. We don't really get to know what's going on. It makes a quarterly report to the council, but apart from that, there's this massive budget that gets spent without us really knowing what's going on. And the other thing that I'm hearing, and I must actually get back to writing some more about it, is that there are some very happy contractors out there, particularly in the IT sector, because the wheel is being reinvented in some cases because we've got these new organisations. Even in the case of like Auckland Libraries, which have a perfectly good system, IT system that links all their catalogues, that is being replaced, although it'll stay in place apparently, but with a rather large, expensive new solution from Microsoft.
Oh. And
we're paying for it. There was, as far as I can see, and I've spoken to people who have some idea of what's going on. There was no reason to do this.
Yeah.
And we don't get to know what's going on except by people leaking stuff.
Yeah. So more and more needs to be talked about this in the media.
Absolutely.
People need to know about it.
And I think there's lots of stories in there. On a purely journalistic level, I think there's tons of stories here.
But what is going to galvanise people to actually get out in the streets and perhaps even march about this stuff?
I reckon what might galvanise people actually is pure self-interest. If there's a very good story written about the way money is being spent in their name, I think that might actually that might scare people along. But it is. This whole thing is quite odd, and it's not terribly democratic, and a lot of people involved with the process are actually getting quite concerned about it.
Yeah. You'd think, I don't know, perhaps would other councils around, like perhaps the Wellington Council could actually make a fuss about this as well, because they don't want this sort of stuff to happen in Wellington or Christchurch.
Yeah, I would say at the moment they're watching with great interest.
Yeah, so why not make a fuss now? They should be making a fuss and highlighting it to their constituency, and there'll be a national movement against it, rather than just it being an Auckland thing. Yeah,
that might be the case. It is interesting that I think it was I've got it in front of me, the list given in the Herald on Monday. There are multiple government agencies who have flagged concerns about the process. 3 of the city mayors have said this is crazy. I think there's going to be a bit more to come out of this yet, frankly.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Russell.
Righto.
Cheers. Russell Brown, you'll find his blog at publicaddress.net. It's the Hard News blog, and also the Media 7 show on